Welcome to Fireside Yankees. My name is Alex with my co-host here, Nick Nielsen. And today we're taking a look at the Minnesota Twins and Yankees trade from a couple weeks ago. Of course, Yankees got Isaiah Kiner-Falefa, Ben Rortvedt, and Josh Donaldson while we gave up Gary Sanchez and Gio Urshela. Mixed reviews on Gio Urshela going. I know some people wanted him to stay. Some people were okay with him leaving, but we do want to dive into those. But also, quick shout out to Brett Gardner for being a loyal son of a bitch. And that man turned down $6 million on 1 year with the Toronto Blue Jays to stay retired because he didn't want to play for anybody but the Yankees. A lot of people talk a lot of shit about Brett Gardner, but I'll tell you what, that man is a freaking loyal son of a gun, and I respect the hell out of him for that.
Get him in Monument Park. He deserves to be Monument Park. If we're being honest, he's got 40 career WAR with the Yankees. Like, no one realizes how good Brett Gardner's been. He deserves to have his little spot in Monument Park.
Look, aside from, what he's done in terms of numbers, the guy was one of the best leaders on this team. He was a leader. He was another coach. He was an extension of the coaching staff. He filled in for injuries when he was supposed to be a reserve player for the last 2-3 years. He was not. Clint Frazier was supposed to be the starter. Brett Gardner
just disappeared and then threw shit on the Yankees. And it's like, Clint, dog, I was rooting for you. But Brett never complained, always gave it his all. The dude, he and Didi were like one of the best little tandems in the clubhouse I think I have in recent memory.
So much.
Oh, good times, man. But yeah, shout out to Brett. What a guy, dude. Guy's guy, I guess you could say.
No, he's definitely, he's definitely a dog now. And I think that was a really, really nice sign of loyalty from him. But, diving into this Minnesota Twins, Yankees trade, kind of reviewing these players now, the Yankees at face value walked away with an absolute steal. They took on the 2 years, $50 million remaining on Josh Donaldson's contract, which was definitely lofty, definitely concerning at first. We're like, okay, what? That's a lot of money to take on. The Yankees could have rolled that over into literally Carlos Correa for a season or two. Considering the short-term contract he signed, but we'll talk about his numbers of the Twins and why that ended up being a good decision. And also, just Isaiah Kiner-Falefa, what he's done, and the catching position, letting Gary Sanchez go. I don't think it's an anomaly that Gary Sanchez left and the Yankees are doing good, are playing a lot better. Yeah. There was parts of his game that were very bad, ranging from his framing of pitches to his arm. He just was not a great defensive catcher. He never really has been. But Kyle Higashioka and Jose Trevino, as you mentioned yesterday, Nick, are stout defensive players. And
Higgy struggled yesterday, I will say. Higgy had some mistakes yesterday. But he's our backup catcher at this point. I feel like the pendulum shifted now to where Higgy's playing the backup to Trevino because of how good Trevino is. So even Higgy being not as good as he usually is still like a top 25% defensive catcher in baseball. So it's like, okay, we'll take that. And then Trevino is just a god behind the plate. Even Gary this year, he's not terrible. He's got 0 framed runs added and 0 taken away. So he's kind of average. So Gary doesn't seem to be doing too bad, luckily for the Twins, defensively. Offensively, though, it's a different story. Oh, my Lord. And that's the thing. I bet if he stayed with the Yankees and is doing what he's doing right now with the Twins, he's not been bad defensively. We probably would take it. But we'd also be slaughtering Gary Sanchez at every chance he gets, or every chance we get, because Yankees fans hated Gary Sanchez. And it's not even a real reflection of Gary. It's just a reflection of a lot of Yankees fans, pick their guys and they're like, I'm going after you. And Gary, I feel got a lot of the short end of the stick and was oftentimes the scapegoat. There are a lot of Yankees writers that I'm not a fan of that would rail Gary for being lazy and overweight. And it's guys, I don't think that's true. Gary puts in work. So
he got thin.
Yeah, and he got thin. So when he got traded, part of me was like, okay, good. Now you're gone. So you won't just get completely bombarded with hate every time you step up to the plate. People forget, I believe 2015 Gary or 2016 Gary was the only good Yankees player that year. Single-handedly helped push the Yankees to a playoff push and almost run Rookie of the Year despite playing in 3 months of baseball. But it was time for him to go. And looking at what's happened now since he's left at the catcher position, offensively, yes, it's a black hole, even though Trevino does have his moments. And Higgy played pretty well offensively, all things considering yesterday.
Round the bases on that was it?
That was nice.
Double?
Yeah.
Nasty.
Everyone played very well yesterday, except for the bottom of the lineup. They went, I think, 3 for 16 yesterday, and then the top part of the lineup went 12 for 23. No, but that's my thing. It doesn't matter when you score 15 runs.
It doesn't matter.
And so Gary, if he was in the team, he wouldn't make any difference, in my opinion. Like, we wouldn't be any better. We'd probably be worse with Gary on the team, like considerably worse. So seeing him leave was honestly best thing that happened. IKF, I don't know. The whole Twins trade, when it happened, you hit it right on the head with, there were mixed emotions. Because Gio's presence on the team, with him being this like lovable guy, everyone loved Gio. He was called adorable.
He hit his ceiling.
Yeah. And the thing is like, this is what pisses me off so much about when we got Donaldson. The only reason people didn't like the Donaldson deal was because of how much he's getting paid and because he's old. But you got to realize that Donaldson is one of the guys that is kind of like Nelson Cruz in the way that his bat does not slow down. So
his personality too. Yeah, that's a very underrated factor. He's a leader in that locker room.
Sure, he dresses like he's a 22-year-old prospect coming up, but that's how JD is. We love that about JD. So looking at it now, it's like when it happened, I was like, Josh Donaldson, when he played for the Atlanta Braves in 2019, I believe, had a 5.1 F4 season. That is more than Gio Urshela has his entire career by like 2 WAR. So people have to realize that even though Donaldson's like old, he's very good at baseball. And now we're starting to see that. And Yankees fans are starting to realize, like, wow, like, maybe Donaldson is better than Gio. It's like, no shit.
I mean, look, he hits home runs. He fits the mold the Yankees are looking for perfectly. And ultimately, like you said before, the back end of the order has its deficiencies. But I will point out one thing, right? They were hoping Ben Rortvedt would be available. Like Jose Trevino has been a phenomenal stopgap, probably better than Kyle Higashioka. But Ben Rortvedt is the guy that Tanner Swanson wanted from Minnesota. He made sure to include him in the deal. He's a good defensive catcher, and he's got a huge bat. He knew he was hurt
too and took him. He wanted him still.
He still wanted him. They threw him in there, and look, if they can continue to develop him, he has a pretty decent bat. Obviously the injury has kept him from swinging a lot, getting those reps in. But when he comes back, I would not be surprised if the Yankees had him catching some games and trying to get him in the mix. But I'll also point this out, right? Mm-hmm. I don't know this for sure, but it's an interesting idea that I want to present to you. The reason Gary Sanchez might be performing better with the Twins than he was with the Yankees is because the pitchers are just different, right? Yeah. The Yankees focus a lot on high velocity pitchers
and lots
of movement, high velocity, right? I don't know if the Twins do that, right? I don't know if they do that. But the Yankees have a very specific style of pitcher that they like to utilize, and they need catchers who are good at framing those guys.
No, right? You're right.
Guys who have quick gloves, can call the right game, call the right pitches. They need someone that has that type of experience and, fits that mold. Clearly, they found a couple of guys, and they groomed Higashioka to do that exactly.
Yeah,
that's why he's been, he is a good defensive catcher. Like you said yesterday, not the best game, but Garrett Cole today when he's pitching,
he's good. Yeah, Higgy's going to be money. Because Higgy's going to start today with Cole. Like that should be very likely. Like, and if Trevino starts today with Cole, I'll kind of be surprised because it's like, wow, like that means Garrett Cole's like trusts Trevino defensively enough now to where it's like, okay, so all 5 pitchers in the rotation love Trevino. So if we see Trevino, that's a win. But if we see Higgy, that's a win as well because it's like, okay, Garrett loves Higgy, and when they pitch, when they have their partnership, it's usually a successful outing, especially in the last 4 for Garrett Cole. They've been a lot better outings than his first 2 or 3. Right. So that's what we want to see. Like having this little catcher tandem. I know everyone complains about not having offense out of the catcher position. And honestly, if you look at the market, there are like 2 catchers that I'd look at that I'd say overall would be more contributive to the team. And they're both kind of struggling. One of them is Mike Zunino, and he's been terrible to start this season. And then the other one's Sean Murphy in Oakland. And he's been all right, but he still has this same gripes where it's like he hasn't minimized his swings and misses. He hasn't been able to hit those meatball pitches like he said he wanted to work on. And that's why he has a high swinging strike percentage, caught chasing percentage, and a high slugging percentage with home runs and doubles, but he's only batting like 210. So like you have to realize that catcher is not a gold mine. There are no good players out there that are like 7 WAR catchers that are 140 WRC plus offensive players. Like it just doesn't exist. Like, unfortunately, Thurman Munson's not around. Like, I know all the Yankees fans want it, but it's not there.
Yeah, I mean, look, I wanted JT Realmuto a couple years ago when they had the chance.
But he's awesome.
And he's awesome. But it was unrealistic based on, what we were the amount of money that they were trying to spend. They had just locked up a couple of big contracts, DJ, even Cole. They were still coming off that one. So, and they had to eye Aaron Judge down the road. And Judge, by the way,
I still think they signed him, by the way.
Holy shit. Aaron Judge is making himself a lot of money right now. If he maintains this pace, he's on pace for like 50 homers. If he maintains this pace, that dude is going to get paid.
Yesterday's price is not today's price. I thought he was
stupid. I thought he was stupid for turning down $30 million a year.
I think it was 7 or 8 year, $240 million that we
generational money.
Generational be set for money. Life. Your kids would be set. Your kids would be set.
I'm not that confident. Okay.
No, yeah.
I'm not that confident
because I know as soon as I didn't take it, I'd blow out my knee and my career would be over.
That's what I'm saying. Like I'm not that. He's like Judge turning 30, right? That's not that old for baseball players, but like
no.
Look at his size and his injury history. $30 million, generational wealth, turning that down to bet on yourself is a ballsy. You got the balls and the gall to do something like that, man.
You gotta get a TV. You gotta get TV shirts going with like the balls and the gall. Talking about Crane with like his like silhouette behind it.
Seriously,
like his arms crossed.
We'll get them made. But
you gotta get merch going. But no,
we will.
You're right. And like, I don't know, man.
He's gonna get paid. He's gonna get paid a lot of money.
He should get paid. And the only thing I worry about is that it's not gonna be by us. Because at this point,
there's no way Cashman's letting him leave.
I want to believe that because I truly do believe that. But at the same time, that part of me thinks maybe we do cheap out on it. Maybe we let him go. But at the beginning of the season, everyone's like, oh, Judge is the only person that's going to want to bring back Judge or bring Judge for what he's asking for is Steve Cohen. And even then, I don't see that happening. Now it's like, maybe that's maybe that's not enough. So I don't know. The Aaron Judge, that whole contract talk, when that comes at the end of the season, is going to be a very interesting time because if he keeps the pace he's on, he's going to hit 50, 60 home runs and possibly win MVP and possibly lead the team to a World Series. Like all of these things are kind of lining up right now beautifully. And part of that I do think is because Josh Donaldson came over to the team. Like I know it sounds crazy and I know this just made me being a super fan, but Josh Donaldson's impact, not just on the overall like lineup card every day, but in the clubhouse, in the dugout, outside of the clubhouse, outside of the dugout, he just kind of embodies everything that you want to see from a Yankee. We missed that fire that Jeter had. We missed that competitive edge that wanted to lead the team. And that's what Donaldson's doing.
Nick Swisher. He has Nick Swisher energy.
Nick Swisher, yeah. Like Nick Swisher, Mark Teixeira, Jeter, all those guys that like Andy Pettitte, all those guys that were there to win baseball games. I don't dare say A-Rod because I know a lot of Jeter fans would be like, well, actually, but that's what Donaldson's bringing. Like, aside from his stats, which we've established are far better than Gio. I've looked at every stat, and the only stat that Gio Urshela is better than the only stat that Gio Urshela has the edge in over Josh Donaldson is strikeout percentage. And we've established that doesn't matter if you don't hit the ball hard. And Gio's -7 WRC plus for the month of May is suggesting to me that he's not been hitting the ball hard. Josh's 160 WRC plus for the month of May, 140 WRC plus for the month of May, suggests the polar opposite. So, okay, we can brush that aside. Let's look at the clubhouse impact. I think Josh Donaldson's fiery leadership and ability to get people fired up and say, hey, we're the New York motherfucking Yankees. We should not be losing to teams like Texas, Detroit, Baltimore. And since then, we've just dominated basically everyone. I don't think Gio provides that spark that Donaldson does. We are not winning 23 out of 31 games with Gio Urshela in the lineup. I'm sorry, people. Like, we're just not. And even if Donaldson sucked for those 2 weeks where he was pretty bad, since he's come around, like even in those 2 weeks where he wasn't hitting the ball or seeing it, he walked like 9 times. So it's like, okay, he understands he's not hitting the ball and he's not going to try to do too much. He's going to make the pitcher beat him. And sometimes he did. But now Donaldson's starting to find his hits, find the pitches he wants to swing at, and capitalize on mistakes. Like that slider that they hung yesterday to him, sure, the game was like well over. But it was 11-7, and everyone's like, all right, this game's kind of over. People are leaving. And then he hits that like pimp shot home run, and it's like, all right, 14-7, now the game's over. Like, we didn't even need him to do it, and he did it, and it felt great for him because he hadn't hit a home run in like 3 weeks. But like, it's just, I don't know, dude. This team with Donaldson just feels so different. And I know IKF brings a lot of hustle and energy as well, but he's kind of been struggling a little bit. However, IKF and Gary, in terms of their production right now, have kind of been a wash. And then IKF still has 0.5 WAR, and Gary has -0.3. So if we just look at that, IKF's better. This whole trade is just, it's hilarious to me that when it happened, everyone was really against it. Like a lot of people were like, why are we bringing in Donaldson for $30 million or $27 million a year? He's old and he has that quad and hamstring injury. Why are we bringing in someone like that? IKF, he's not even a Gold Glove shortstop. Why are we putting him there? He's a Gold Glove third baseman. And now you're seeing it kind of pay off. And Correa went to the IL. Even though I do think Correa is going to turn it around when he comes back and be a great baseball player. He's been really struggling to start this season. Trevor Story's been awful, and I love Trevor Story, but he's been terrible. Marcus Semien hasn't hit a home run. He's OPSing like 420. Like every option, Corey Seager is. I like Corey, but you have the same worries with Corey that you do with Donaldson about injuries, about him not being able to stay there long term, and about getting overpaid for his value. Like I like Corey Seager, but he's not doing amazingly right now in Texas, despite getting a ton of at-bats. So if you look at the market compared to what we have now, I think it's like the Hulk scene from the Avengers. Like I see this as an absolute win.
Yeah, I mean, at face value, it is an absolute win. And IKF, for the record, I kind of see the Yankees move. I like Josh Donaldson, but the reality is like eventually they're gonna move on from him.
Yeah, he's 2 years. That's it.
He's 2 years. 2 years.
He's 36.
He's 2 years, and Cashman set this up quite nice. And when you start to look at it, it's like, oh, okay, like you get the moving pieces here, right? So you sign Aaron Judge to this massive contract, right? Josh Donaldson's $25 million comes off the books in 2 years. Yep. That money goes right to Aaron Judge. Yep. That money is already allocated to Aaron Judge, right?
Maybe Hicks has moved, and that money right to Aaron Judge.
Right to Aaron Judge. And IKF, on the other hand, he's only there until Anthony Volpe is ready.
Yeah.
He's only there.
Peraza.
And what happens to IKF when they're ready? He goes to third base where he's a Gold Glover.
Yes.
And
that's not a bad idea at all.
That's the moving pieces, though. That's the plan. Now you have your young guys taking over at shortstop. You have a young kind of up and coming player in IKF who now has some experience in the pinstripes. And by the way, playing with the Yankees is not easy. It takes time for players to get used.
We've seen what happened to players like Sonny Gray.
They get overwoverwhelmed by the New York
Some
atmosphere.
Guys can't handle it. Brandon Drury literally died and disappeared.
Jacoby Ellsbury gone. Dead.
The list keeps going. Like some guys can't handle it.
They can't, and that's okay.
He handles it, and he has his moments, where it's like, and he's a streaky hitter. Everyone looked at his 280 batting average and was like, oh, he's going to be 280 all year. No, it's like 340 and then 220. Like he's a streaky hitter, but he's a great base runner, a good defender. The clubhouse loves him. He hustles on every single ball in play, and you can't say that about everyone, even my boy JD. But Josh also is like, screw that. I've been playing for 11 years. I'm not running the bases. But like this team just has a great feel about it. And this trade is a big reason why. Like we lost a lot of the kind of, I don't want to say negative because that feels rude to say, but kind of the beating your head against the wall energy with Gary Sanchez. And I do feel like you said, we got the best out of Gio Urshela. And we were able to capitalize and move them for a player that won an MVP for 5 years in a row, was as good of player as Mike Trout. I'm not making that up. And in terms of his career, has more FWAR than Arenado and Manny Machado, and slightly less than Evan Longoria, who's played 700 more games in Josh Donaldson. So I think that if Donaldson ends up playing 130 games this year, which he's kind of on track to do because of all the rest days and the pinch hitting and the DHing, he's going to have 25, 27 home runs, a 130, 135 WRC plus, and like a 4 WAR. And that's not even talking about his defensive numbers. Defensively, he's got a couple of defensive runs saved. He's got an out above average. And then Gio's got negative. So it's like, I don't know. People are worried about his defense because of his legs. And I'm like, well, we've seen him make like 6 or 7 plays. Yesterday, he made an insane play where it was like a foul ball against the shift.
Full speed.
And he full speed sprinted. I was like, that was like 34 miles an hour. He looked like a damn cheetah. But I don't know, dude. This is such a fun episode.
Yeah.
I just love talking about JD's success. Call me a rider. I don't care.
Look, and that's okay, man. Like, if you have good reason to believe a player is good, then, advocate for them. And there's 2 things I do want to point out, right? Mm-hmm. One thing with IKF, you look at his on-base percentage, 30%. So he gets on base 30% of the time. Out of his at-bats, he gets on base 30% of the time. So let's say he gets 3 at-bats a game. He's on base on average 1 of those at-bats. And when you have, and this kind of leads me into the second point, he's at the bottom of the order. So let's say, you're starting off the inning with IKF and he gets on base one of those times, and then you have DJ LeMahieu coming up. And by the way, I think up to this point, DJ LeMahieu might be like the most nobody's talking about DJ's impact right now. But the dude, you mentioned rest days. You know who's covering all of those guys for rest days?
DJ. Second base, first base, third base, DH. That's what DJ's
anybody. And not only that, he's been absolutely slaying recently. He gets on base all the time, and he's hitting singles, doubles. He's not hitting home runs every game, but
he's elevating the ball more than we've seen.
That is what the leadoff hitter, and that idea I had yesterday that Hicks should be in the 9 slot because he walks a lot, and then DJ in the 1 slot and Judge at 2.
Yeah, we saw how Hicks in the 6 spot went.
Yeah, look, I like Hicks at 9 because he gets on base with his walks. You get DJ who actually gets hits, and then you get Judge in the 2 slot.
So yeah, you do IKF 8, or you honestly could do IKF 7 or Trevino 7, IKF 7, or IKF 8, Trevino 8, whichever, and then Hicks 9. Because that also makes it so the pitcher knows that he doesn't just have an easy out. Because people that say Hicks is an automatic out are absolute morons. The dude goes up there and sees 6 pitches per at bat. He sees some of the most pitches in baseball. He just is struggling right now to make contact with it. But having him in the 9 spot means that the pitcher cannot just go up there and throw a 3-pitch out to someone like Marwin or Higgy or someone like that, knowing that they're in the 9 hole. And then having Hicks there, like you said, if he gets on base, if he walks, DJ's got to run around. Then all of a sudden you got to pitch to DJ differently. And then if DJ gets on, there's Judge, and now you got runners on first and second.
You're in trouble.
The whole team just, it's if the bottom of the order can turn over, that's the big key. Because like I said, yesterday's game was awesome, amazing. 15 runs. We've scored 65 runs more than our opponents this season. It's insane. But the top half of the order went 13 for 25. Bottom half went 3 for 16. That's the only issue. 0 extra base hits on the bottom. 7 extra base hits for the top 5.
The trade deadline's going to be interesting if they find a guy at the bottom of the order that can hit.
Whew,
I don't know. It could be a catcher. Maybe Ben Rortvedt comes up and ends up killing it offensively. Who knows?
Maybe we use Hicks as a 4th outfielder. I don't know. Maybe we do pursue a center fielder.
Maybe.
Brian Reynolds is still out there.
Would be sick.
I love Brian Reynolds. But yeah, dude, what an episode. Oh, this was a fun one.
Yeah, but guys, I think we can kind of come to the conclusion that the Yankees won this trade up to this point. Of course, it's a long season, so we'll see. We'll see how it progresses. But so far, very, very excited about this trade. What the returns are looking like, and avoiding Carlos Correa. The name is big, but at certain points, it comes down to strategy. It comes down to personalities, interworkings of those personalities. Would Carlos Correa really be okay with one day Anthony Volpe coming up and saying, this is my job now? There's all these different things that play a factor. And I think that Brian Cashman did a great job setting up the pieces for the future while also thinking about the present. So shout out to him, because I know I was very, very critical. I was critical about him. If somebody is out there that says that they were fully behind Brian Cashman, they're lying. They're lying, and they continue to lie, because everybody talks smack about Brian Cashman at some point. Everybody talks smack about that guy and what his decisions were this offseason. So far, he has proven to be right, and he's making everybody, shut their mouths. So shout out to him.
We got that fire and edge from Correa in Donaldson without the cheating. And then we got the cheating and the let me do better than you by cheating without Correa in Marwin. So we filled every part of Correa. We moneyballed Correa.
We moneyballed Correa.
We got the cheating from Marwin. We got the energy from Donaldson. We got the position from Correa. And then we got all of them coming together to just form this super player that's more valuable than Correa. I love it. He gets on base.
He gets on base. Exactly. But guys, hope you enjoyed this episode of Fireside Yankees. Make sure to like and subscribe below on the YouTube channel, and drop a review and subscription on Apple and Spotify. As always, much love, and we'll catch you guys on the next episode.